for coming on. We're very happy to have Ena Jones, who's going to talk through farm and business planning and cultivating success. Ms. Jones, we do have Spanish language translators, so if you're able to speak slowly and give them time to catch up as you're going through the presentation, that'd be great. But very excited for
Oh,
you to be here. Thank you.
all right. Thank you so much.
All right, so if you're ready to jump in, go ahead.
Okay. Um, well, the first thing about farm and business planning is that we like to say, know your crops, and um, focusing on more than one crop and not monoculture is more beneficial to your farming practice than anything, because it helps reduce the cost of pesticides and herbicides, and it also plants feed off of one another. Okay. I'm so forgive me, Mr. Cooley. I was told I was going to have some questions asked of me and then to answer. So it just flying off the cuff, but
Oh,
if that's okay. Yeah.
that's fine. We can start if you want to have folks want to ask for some questions. We can start with those prompts and
Yeah, if you want to start with some questions, I'll be happy to answer instead of hearing me ramble, because this is a never ending conversation.
okay, great. Well, thank for folks who have come on to come in. If you have any specific questions that you'd like to ask Mrs. Jones about farm and business planning, we can start there. Um, you can put them in the chat. That'd be great.
Okay, let's see. And just for starters, and for our new coming farmers, if they would like to start with the 10-cent rule, and what the 10-cent rule is, we'd like to know that, we'd like to start with that there's 43,560 square feet to an acre. So if you're averaging whatever you plant needs to return at least 10 cents, per square foot for it to be profitable. And that can be done, effectively with almost any crop or even livestock, depending on how many livestock you can fit into an acre. And then divide that livestock up into however many pounds of meat. But for easy math, we can do corn. Okay, we'll start with corn. So if we plant one acre of corn, and we plant about 2 kernels in each square foot, that gives us an average of about a little over 86,000 ears of corn, because there's 1 ear of corn on each stalk, right? So if we average about a 70% yields on that 86,000 corn kernels, we're going to average maybe about 60 or 70 ears of corn, okay? Which may be about 7,000 bushels of corn, between 5 and 7,000 bushels of corn, which is about 65 pounds each bushel, right? So, and just think of all the things that you can do with that corn. You can turn it into oil, you can turn it into cornmeal, and then begin with the end in mind. Like, what do you want to do with your harvest after it's mature, after its maturity, after it's harvested, and everything that goes into it. So proper farm planning feeds directly into proper business planning. And then and adding value to your harvest is the most important with anything that would to is really, really important to help you scale and see how you're going to make money and how you're going to get a return and going forward. And adding more things to your to your harvest to add value, because you can also turn that same corn into corn flour. You can turn and everything is useful in the, find something to do with every bit of your harvest, even the waste. The waste can be turned into to fertilizer with some plants. You know, if we're sticking with the corn stalk can be turned into fertilizer. The leaves are turned into masa leaves, and corn husk can be turned into wraps for tamales and things like that, different culturally relevant foods. Then we're talking about the corn silk is made for teas, and it's used in a lot of different herbal practices and things. So all of every bit of your corn of your harvest, to find something to do with it, find a way to add value from the very beginning, from when you plant it in the ground to when it get ready to come out, because time is of the essence with everything, right? So you want to make sure that um that you are properly planning so that you have adequate equipment, adequate supplies, adequate help and assistance, seasonal labor, volunteers and your regular staff, and hiring a co-packer if necessary. But the most important is to build some kind of um, processing on your farm and get the right kind of, cottage licenses and things like that, if you're able to have cottage licenses in your state or in your county, so that you can do some kind of processing and you be able to control your product from ideation to maturity, and then sell it at farmers market. One of the things that we do, with GreenTable Talks, is we help from ideation all the way to maturity, and even get in with barcoding. And so, depending on where you want to sell your product, you have to have the proper labeling and all of those different things on your product. And also, then don't forget allergies and different notices. It's helpful to know if it's vegan or if it's organic and how it's been processed, and how the product has been cultivated, if it's halal, with meat and things like that. So all of those, it's a way, and there's a proper way to put those labels on your packaging. So get familiar with, and a good way to cheat is to find a product or find a package that is similar to yours, that's already in the marketplace, and kind of mimic, not so much copy, but make sure that everything that's on that packaging is also on yours, but also know where your placement should be on your labeling, because different labels need different placement, information placement, especially with your nutrition facts and allergy warnings and things like that. So all of that's, so beginning with the end in mind with what you're going to plant, and don't be hard pressed to try to plant everything, because everything costs. So when you are farm planting, it's ideal to, if you're planting tomatoes, that you want peppers, that you want this, but when you're doing, uh, when you're farming for volume, even though you want to um, companion plant, and you don't want a monoculture, and you want to plant more than one thing that's compatible, don't try to plant everything. Keep your budget in mind, keep your cost in mind, keep your packaging, and source all of those things. Make sure that you have the proper insurance. um NAP insurance is very important, as well as having product liability insurance if you're bringing things into the marketplace. That's even with farmers markets, so get really used to making sure that the legal side of your business, and that your business is protected, because we have a lot of recalls and things like that in the, in the food space. So it's best to protect yourself with insurance and knowing, having the proper licenses and things like that so that you can protect yourself and look competitive in the marketplace, which will bring you into a window where you're able to have showcase and have your food, and your value added product on a larger platform, and you are able to get in. Mostly all stores have what they call a local vendors program, like Walgreens and Walmart and Target. Most grocery stores, they have a local vendors program. So getting into these local vendors program with your food product, and you making sure that it looks just as competitive as any other product in the marketplace is almost guaranteed, is a great shoe in for you to come in looking professional, looking polished, and you have all the proper information on your labels, and it's clean, and you have, with your nutrition facts is in alignment. Your label is easy to read and easy to see. It doesn't, your packaging is professional. It's so easy to have professional packaging in this day and age for um, for small scale products. You can still look just as polished as anything from Nabisco and Kraft or anybody else, Um, and so it's really, really important that you start and take your time and, list what do you want to do and where do you want to go with your product, even if it's only one product. So there we did a product with just garlic. We just did a product with just garlic, and my one of our farmers, they were new to farming. They wanted something low maintenance and easy to go in the marketplace. And we just did, a half an acre of elephant garlic, and then regular garlic. And we made a black garlic jelly. And now they sell it all over the country, and they're out of North Carolina, and they do very, very well with this simple black garlic, you know. So, but they began with the end in mind. They knew what they were going to do. They knew that they needed so many jars. So while the garlic is maturing in the ground, now they're taking that time, that growth time to design the packaging, get the jars, make sure they have enough, make sure their process is in place, making sure that their insurance is in place, their cottage license was in place, that, they knew that they can do small processing on their farm. They signed up with different farmers markets across their county, and and across their state. They was able to send a couple case packages to other small scale farmers in other states, that was also introducing their products in farmers markets. So there was a bleed over with cross marketing, that happens when you get into a network and a co-op with other farmers, and you have a like mind, and you can share, because the food is not fresh, it has a shelf life. It's able to withstand traveling time, and then you can you can kind of barter and trade products and have a full farmers market display, you know, um, uh, at that level, and also be able to introduce other farmers products into the market. I know I just said a lot there, but if anybody got any questions, I'm more than welcome to take them.
Mrs. Jones, real quick, do you have a specific success story from the last year or two that you really think models some of the things you were highlighting?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have been assisting Warrior Creek Premium Meat, who I also became a partner with, to introduce new lines of meat and sausage, into the marketplace. We're sold in Publix, Piggly Wiggly, Snipes, in the South. We raise um, beef and pork right now, and we have a full line of like 12 different sausages. We are helping some of our farmers out of North Carolina um, with the pasta sauce. They're growing everything to create a pasta sauce to sell in our grocery store, which is Roots and Vine Produce and Cafe. We also have introduced 11. We're going to launch 11 brands into the marketplace, with 13 brands. I'm sorry, 13 brands into the marketplace. April 7th of 2025. Um, and that's with Grind 1440, which is a mushroom coffee. And Sunday Southern Sides, which is a frozen food side dishes. Um, then we have a lamb and chicken sausage, which is halal. We also have uh, let me see. Oh, a barbecue sauce, Miss D's Miss D's barbecue sauce. We have Hannah's honey. There we have Hannah's hot honey going to be launched also. um, which is, and everything is grown on Donaldson Farms. We already had the honey by happenstance because they have bees. So we growing some cayenne pepper so we can turn it into a high honey and control that brand all the way from ideation to maturity and all the ingredients and everything, and be able to put over 20,000 bottles into the marketplace in 2025, with that brand. Um, what else? We have quite a few brands are going to get launched, some that don't have names yet because we are in the ideation phase for those products. And we plan to launch them, in April 7th of 2025.
Wow, sounds like an amazing set of products you guys have been planning for quite a while.
Yes.
For folks who are just getting started, who have started doing kind of diversified vegetables, um, what are some things that you would emphasize for them? And maybe starting on smaller scales, particularly urban producers who may be, on like an acre or less, we're kind of starting to think about the transition from diversified crop to where most of the products being sold fresh. What are some of the first things they should be thinking about if they want to either scale up and focus more on a handful of products, or starting to think about the transition and the value added?
I would say thinking about the transition and the value added, because selling fresh produce and things you can grow a lot I'm gonna back up a little bit. You can grow a lot on a small footprint, right? You can grow because you can grow up, you can grow out depending on what you grow. Like tomatoes can grow in abundance, peppers can grow in abundance. So but it's you may still want to diversify the things that you want to eat personally. But when you're talking about making some money and scaling something, you should maximize, whatever product that you want to use to create that product from. So well, let's say a pasta sauce, for example, even if you had a quarter acre, which is about 10,000 square feet, lot, which is the average size of a Chicago vacant lot, right? If you use majority of that space to grow to grow some onions, peppers, tomatoes, carrots, all the things that you want to put in this pasta sauce, most of those things can companion plant together. And so you can grow all of those together and begin to know what you're going to do with them, kind of make sure that they have everything they need so you can get a really good yield, babysit them if you have to, nurture them until their maturity, and then go back and start while they're growing, exactly how many jars of pasta sauce you may be able to get out of this, or you can plan, or you can do powders, or you can, dehydrate or freeze dry, depending on what kind of equipment you have at your disposal to, or if you just want to do stewed tomatoes. Stewed tomatoes is still a great product, and it has a long shelf life, right? So if you want to make a barbecue sauce, those things like that have a long shelf life. So think of things that can have a long shelf life that you want to get into the marketplace, that is creative and culturally relevant, and fresh. You're able to bring a fresh new item into the marketplace. People are really, really hungry, for lack of a better word, for new products into the marketplace, new recipes. Things from other countries that people that's foreign here that people would like to try, and maybe you have it in mind that there's a great, horseradish sauce that you can bring to the marketplace, that you have a great idea. And it's, there's a dish that's popular on social media, and your sauce can really make it pop. And that'll be a great time to just invest a small amount of money into, bringing that product to the marketplace to see if it, to test your market, to see if it's worth going to a co-packer and reproducing at a larger scale.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. If somebody, if they're making their first effort in the value added, what are some recommendations if they don't have a full scale commercial kitchen, but would when I need to access or borrow equipment from other folks? What are some things that you've seen, pathways that folks have taken to kind of try things out before they make big investments in equipment? Like you,
Really, yep. You really go to most churches have kitchens, most schools and city colleges have kitchens that you can rent. There are, and most of the time they have, big equipment that you can use because they intend to feed a lot of people. So I would say just try at least launch, uh, product developing your product, take the time and make, you know, uh, the product development to make sure that it's the same when you make a gallon as if you're going to make 10,000 gallons. So it's a science to that, but it's definitely, something that you have to think about in the beginning. So when you get ready to find a when you get to the stage of finding and connecting with a co-packer, you speak the same language, and that what you are in want to put into the marketplace is understood, and that you understand your product. You're not able to, hold on a second. I'm sorry, my store is under construction still. And so being able to um, know exactly what your recipe is vitally important, and how to scale it. So when you are doing your food and product development, it's ideal to know before you even get started how much, if you will, you need, what would your recipe look like if you got an order for 10,000 units, you know, and you don't want a surprise at the end of the day, you know. So you will want to know that, completely getting started, and don't rush it, you know. Everything has a shelf life, but you want to have your product as perfect as possible. Food production is not something that you can rush and you can think on the fly. If you want to scale it, you really have to take your time and develop, your recipe. And you may have 12, 15 different tribes, and then you have to think about is it for mass people, not just what your family likes? You know, your family likes a lot of salt, or people used to you putting a lot of sugar in something. Will the mass community embrace that much sugar? Would they embrace that much salt? Would they embrace that much spice? You know, so you have to really, really test your product, and then probably do um, 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 you know, some taste testings and get some feedback on what you've made and what you've created, and see and slowly build your demand for it through farmers, introduce it in farmers markets. Just make, you know, maybe 10 jars, 20 jars at different farmers markets, you know, or whatever kind of event you may have access to, and give the samples away, you know, and then ask for feedback in lieu of purchasing, you know, in lieu of buying it. Give me some really good feedback, and then that'll help you determine if the recipe you have is worth putting up, you know, a good amount of money behind, and if there's a demand for it.
That's great. Thank you. Um, you were mentioning, you were highlighting, your line of sausages. Is that a similar path that you guys took over the years? To,
Yeah, actually, yes, because at first we only did a whole hog smoked sausage, which was a, you know, relatively easy, very, very simple sausage. It was only four ingredients: salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and paprika. And it sold very, very well. And it was our only product for 2 years. You know, but now we are introducing a beef. We're introducing hot links. We're introducing Italian sausage, breakfast sausage, beef breakfast sausage. You know, a full line of different. We tested our market over time in order to raise money for Roots and Vine. We did a sale. You know, around what was that? We introduced like five different flavors with the Super Bowl at a Super Bowl of 2023, to just to be able to test our market and see if we would get repeat customers, and we did. We got a lot of repeat customers for a number of our sausage products, you know, and sold out, you know, quite a few of them. So then we knew that it was time to, you know, invest more money in build our livestock stream, you know, back up, you know, to be able to support the demand, especially with the grand opening of our store.
that's great. And the store is behind you, so you've expanded into a brick and mortar space that you're building
Yes,
out now.
yes. We at first we was only online, and now we're building out our first. But our goal is to put one store in every zip code throughout the Midwest and the South. We've already bought our second store, and our first store is we're going to soft open this fall, and we're going to do a grand opening April 7th with a first street ceremony with all of our farmers that grow for us.
And where is the store based again?
We're in Chicago. We're in Chicago in Inglewood community on 66 and Sangamon.
Okay, so we should be looking out for you on the 7th, April 7th, to get out there for the grand opening.
Oh, absolutely. We're definitely going to send you guys an invitation. We appreciate your support. Absolutely.
And within the store, are you also having where you're going to have kitchen equipment and be able to do processing as well?
Well, we have that at another location. We have a commercial kitchen and warehouse in Bridgeport that we have now, where we're doing all of our product development. But we are also moving that facility where we share that space with other organizations and other food companies. But now we just got our own space that we are planning to build out a 10,000 square foot warehouse of our own, um, with uh, with a complete with commercial kitchen, and it's in Inglewood also, complete with commercial kitchen, dry storage, cold storage, and a classroom. And we already have that in our Bridgeport location, but we share that space with other people, and we've really outgrown it. We've really outgrown that space.
That's great. What's the address again?
Of the store in Inglewood,
Yes.
6600 South Sangamon. You want a quick tour?
I think that would be great. I think there's a lot of
Yeah,
folks
let's
in the
see.
chat who are excited to hear about the
Yeah,
your project.
let me see how to flip the screen. Let me see. Oh, that ain't it. Let me see. Um, okay, I don't know, but I could just turn it around. So we are finishing up the painting on the outside because that's almost the last thing we have to do. So let me see. That's our fire. This is the cafe side. So that's the fireplace and TV, fireplace and vibe board area. So we are putting all the equipment in now. All the equipment's going in. Um, tables, window, the shutters are down, so you can't see that. So this is our counter table. Our refrigeration is going in. Okay, this is the cafe side too. So all of this equipment is going in. And I'm not sure how much you can see. It's a little bit of a mess, but we just got all of our plumbing in. Just got all the plumbing in for the 3 compartment sinks and stuff. So hand sinks and everything. So it's a bit of a mess, but we'll definitely have it done. Everything will be done and complete within the um next week or so. Next 10 days will be done. So all the refrigeration is going to get installed. So this whole wall right here is going to be about it's going to be 10 5 merchandise refrigerators and 5 merchandiser freezers. And then on that side, we're also going to have a refrigerator and a freezer. So, and then this is our dairy cooler. This is our big Bertha. So dairy, for eggs and all of those things. And this whole wall is going to be, this whole 20-foot wall is where our produce refrigerator is going to be. So we intend to have over 300 square feet of produce every day.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. And then within that, will folks have access to your kitchen? Is it going to be communal kitchen at all, or would you do trainings in there, or will it be
Well,
primarily
that's another space, that's another area. That's another building entirely. Right now with our space in Bridgeport, where we have the commercial kitchen and the classroom and everything, where we do our classes and stuff there. That's where we do our food and product development, have our GreenTable talks, classes. It's not open to the public. It's open to our farmers and our foodpreneurs with our future food producer program. And we have our one-on-one sessions, we have our group sessions and things like that.
That's great. And we've got some folks in the chat who are, one, very interested in staying connected with you. So how would folks best find information about you and your programs?
We have our Facebook page is Community Partners for Black Farmers. We are very active in that group on Facebook. So if you join us on their page, you can definitely keep up with us there. And that's Community Partners for Black Farmers. Anybody is, everybody is welcome. But it's definitely our goal to help Illinois usher in more culturally relevant food in our state. Illinois itself imports over 70% of our food, you know. So it's our goal to help small local farmers, especially in the state of Illinois, become the agricultural state of the Midwest. So we're helping all the way from, with the distribution, because you can grow anything you want, but if there's no way to sell it, there's no place to sell it, or you don't have a connection to sell it, and you're not buddy buddy with Walmart or Kroger, you're pretty much going to be selling your barbecue sauce out of the back of a car, so, but or you're going to have to hook up with farmers markets, which is seasonal. But even with our farmers that connect with us, who have just small scale products, but they still need more than one place in order to sell it, Jackson. They still need more than one place to sell their product, even if they do a farmers market. We want to help our farmers in the state of Illinois launch right through Roots and Vine and expand to other major retailers.
That's great. Is there can folks connect to you via email as well, or is that primarily?
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat and I'll put my phone number in the chat. Just text me. Um, just text me, and then let's set up a time, to talk. And we'll definitely love to help with farm planning, with groups, with urban farmers, foodpreneurs. If you're a foodpreneur that's not connected to a farmer, we can connect you with a farmer that can help, because one hand washes the other, both hands wash the face. So if you know that you have a great jam or jelly, and we have a farmer that's interested in growing your raw goods to turn it into a product, we can help make that connection. And then also for farmers who have, they're growing things and they don't desire to turn it into a product. They don't, because a lot of our farmers are over the age of 60. The average farming age is about 65, 63, 65 years old. And they want to grow, but they don't want to necessarily, do the learning curve of creating a product. Most of the time, we'll take their harvest and turn it into a product. We'll buy from them instead of them trying to sell it, to a buying point, or try to sell all of it themselves, because distribution is hard. So if they have raw goods that we can buy from them and turn it into a product, we can do that.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, there's a couple notes in the chat of folks wanting to, a couple of farmers who are really interested in connecting with you and even potentially scaling into something that they would brand and put in your market, for example.
Say that again, Mr. Cooley. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. I think there were a couple of folks in the chat who were really looking to build that connection after hearing about your exciting project and new space, that would like to make that connection as producers to work on scaling up and trying out value-added products and seeing how that could work out through your market.
Absolutely. And we definitely will, want to embrace, local, culturally relevant foods and help launch. We want to be able to help the next craft, the Bisco, the next, what is that? Barbecue sauce. We want to help launch those, really good things into the marketplace, with less hassle, and it's done right, and it's efficient. And, I've been in food and product development over 30 years. So one of the things that and the crazy part is that I wanted to be a food and product developer for a company, but I didn't know that it was a job. I didn't know that it was a job that I can have. And I wanted to launch my own food and food product, frozen food products. But I was having a hard time finding honest co-packers who wouldn't give me, and that's another issue, finding honest co-packers who would want to give you a non-disclosure, non-compete agreement. Most co-packers, they don't want to because they want to dupe your product. And then you can kind of competing with your own shelf in the marketplace, because they're dishonest, and then there's the upfront fee. It's already very, very expensive to launch a product because even if you did needed to do, their minimum is 10,000 units at $2 a unit, you still looking at $20,000 even after you've even after you've harvested and planted and harvested, and that costs money. The labor to get it out the ground costs money, and then the labeling and packaging and all of that costs money, to compete with your co-packer on the shelf, you know which is, it's kind of disturbing. It's very disturbing actually. And then too, if you want to launch it in grocery stores don't make money on grocery. They make money on real estate. They're real estate companies. So if you are a farmer and you cannot afford to get your growth, to pay rent, to rent a shelf space, even at $1 a month, I mean, even at $100 a month, that's still $1,200. So we're looking at, just to make, we say, a line of seasoning, a line of, pepper and ginger powder. Even just that, at $2 a unit, you've already spent over $30,000 in food and harvest and product development and processing just to get it on the shelf, you know, and with no guarantees of distribution. So and then too, those markets are not going to take all of your product. They're not going to take all those 2,000 units, So where are you going to sell? Where are you going to sell them? You have to diversify and go, and figure out where is all this food going to end up once before it's even planted. And we try to alleviate that stress, and make it easier to get food into the marketplace, easier to get our products into the marketplace. And that's the birth of what Roots and Vine is, in GreenTable Talks goals and mission is to help even the smallest farmer, be able to create and make a good return on their harvest.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Is that an issue? It sounds like there are some issues with existing co-packers. Is that
Yeah.
something you all are looking to do or find kind of a more values aligned and trustworthy co-packer? Or is that something you're looking to develop as well?
Yeah, and then too, their capabilities a lot, dealing with a lot of co-packers, and you got to find a co-packer who has the capabilities to do what it is that you want them to do, and at the volume that they expect. So they have minimums. They have their capabilities. Some of them only want to do powders. They only want to do package. You may want your product, you may do your cayenne powder in a jar with a spoon, but they don't want to do it in a spoon. They want to do it in a pouch, or they want to do it in a smaller jar. But you may think that takes away from the saleability of your product, or it changes the way you want to market it, because everything about your product speaks to who you are, speaks to your mission, your plan, everything that's about your packaging, really tells about, if your product is high end or low end or budget friendly, or free, if it's, generic or whatever the case may be. And so every change that does not align with what your goal and your plan is for your product, you have to find a co-packer who can match that, and most of the time that's very, very difficult. and you'll have to do it yourself. So you have to find some ways to do some product development, and processing on your own farm, or partner with a farmer who, or a co-op who can, and do it together. But there are a lot of co-packers. There are trying to find co-packers that'll give you a non-disclosure agreement for you, or and a non-compete agreement is very difficult though.
Wow. So they directly take your product and then copy it
They
without the.
don't. They won't tell you that. They won't tell you that, but they'll wait and see how well your product is have a demand in the marketplace. Just the same as, I'll give for an example, the everything bagel seasoning. Now, that was an idea of a bagel company, to get rid of a lot of spices, and they created a seasoning, and now it, once it starts selling well and everybody, wants it and craves it and got good ideas and plan for it, now it's under so many different labels, you know. And that's the price of doing, that's one of the costs of doing business with a co-packer. Now I'm not going to say all co-packers are not honest, but if you're going to work with one, that is something you should demand and you should ask for. If you're going to do business with this co-packer, especially being a small business, now they'll give it to Kraft, they'll give it to Nabisco and large companies, but smaller companies, even if you launch the product on Amazon, they have a history of, taking good ideas and recreating it for themselves.
Okay, thanks. That's good things for folks to be paying attention to for sure.
Yeah.
Wanted to open it up and make sure other folks, if they have any specific questions, to put them in the chat, um, kind of around either services or direct ideas or kind of anything. Glenda, Viviana, May.
Yeah, we definitely send me an email or send me a text, and then we can set up a time to talk, individually, because most farmers definitely have their own, every farm is different, every farmer is different, every food business is different. And so we will help you create an action plan, and from your action plan, we'll create a to-do list and bring the product all the way from ideation to maturity, in order to make sure we dot every I, we cross every T, and that you are confident in the product that you're bringing to market. And then so that we can help you launch it with a press release, as well as, how you doing? With a press release, as well as launching it in our stores.
Well, that's all very exciting.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the store opening up in April. That's an exciting thing to look out for. And
Yeah,
then,
we're gonna soft open in the next few weeks, but we're going our grand opening, because we're gonna do a first shoot ceremony, and we would love to have some, some local farmers, some more local farmers, because majority of our farmers are not in Illinois. But we would love to have, we really, really want to encourage more farmers in Illinois to grow. No, you're fine, neighbor. Go ahead. Yeah,
all right.
so we really want to embrace more local farmers throughout the state of Illinois, to encourage them to grow more local food, and we'll help them with distribution. So our goal for Illinois, over the next 3 years, 3 to 5 years, is to have one store in every zip code throughout the, in in food desert communities. There are 23 food desert communities in Chicago alone. So we would definitely want to have at least one store in each of those food desert communities in the next 3 to 5 years
That's exciting. That's exciting.
to
Um,
help out, definitely to help our farmers because and two, if you think about the incident that just happened with the longshoremen, and if that would have went on a week or 2 weeks, our food supply chain would have been drastically affected because Illinois imports over 70% of our food. And we all know what happened during the pandemic with the supply chain issues, with food and empty grocery shelves and things like that. And if there was another pandemic to happen, which they're predicting one, I don't know how, but they're saying we'll have another one around 2030, 2032, something like that, which is not a long way away. If we are designated to only eat the food in our state, Illinois will starve to death. So we have to start, cultivating and growing more food in our state and really taking our, with less travel time, it'll reduce the cost of food, across the board if we, grow more food and not contract it with companies um, that require you to destroy your overage. Because if you grow for Walmart or if you grow for Kroger, if you grow too much, say you grow more than they're willing to buy, they want you to destroy it. That food doesn't make it into the marketplace. Into the supply chain. I'm sorry. It doesn't make it into the supply chain, which would drastically reduce the cost of food. But that's their way of controlling it. And we're not trying to be disruptors, but we want to be, they can do, what they've been doing, but we have to operate differently and really, really help farmers and help the community, because the more fresher foods that is in the community from great farmers, across the state, will reduce our impact on food related illnesses in our home. So it's a trickle up effect, that we have to be diligent and work together to accomplish, the goal of eating better and, reintroducing proper food to our families.
and Mrs. Jones, how were you able to pull together the resources, either through grants, loans, investments, to put together the brick and mortar site that you're opening up?
Well, we did fundraising. We did watermelon sales. I raised money. I had a daycare for over 22 years. So when I knew this is what I wanted to do, I started traveling and saving money in order to do it. And at first, we would want to rent a place, but then when COVID happened, yeah, and everything was shut down, I couldn't see myself holding on to a place, and paying rent, and we weren't able to open, and the rent was like $10,000 a month. So I'm like, okay, I need to use some money and buy something. So I found a building to buy, and we've been slowly working at it ever since and using my own funds to do so. We got a small loan from IFF, but for the most part, it's been our own, sweat and investment into making this happen for the community. So doing our meat sales, we have a watermelon sale every year. We pre-sale. We sold over 10,000 watermelon in a weekend last year, and over 8,000 watermelon in 9 days, this year.
Well, so a lot of kind of creative, thoughtful work, but also a lot of kind of diligence over years to pull together that savings.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of know who we're going to sell to and who we're going before things go in the ground. We know we do business with the state of Georgia. We do business with the state of Florida. We sell to some food banks, and then we make a list of churches and, throughout the whole pipeline from Georgia to Illinois. And we reach out to different organizations and community advocates, and we let them know what we're doing, and we take orders. So when when every watermelon comes out the ground, we know it got a home before we even pick it. So we pre-sell everything before it comes out of the ground, and we know where it's going, and we know what our return should be, and then we'll know how to divvy that up once what goes into investment for the store, what goes into planning again next year, and what goes into paying for labor.
And that's allowed you to have the resources through that planning to know that you're going to have the extra resources to start investing in the building.
Yes. Then we got a couple grants. We got a couple of grants that were, recently that were very, very helpful. That we are helping a lot of our farmers to be able to um, um, get their product to market, when we launch. So we're excited about that.
That's great. And what are those programs, just to let folks know if they're available for them to go after as well?
Oh, that's with our Future Food Producer Program. But we got a grant from, I think we got a grant from food, Chicago Food Policy. We got a grant from you guys. We also got a grant from CCT, a Chicago Community Trust, and we got another grant from a small grant from oh, I forgot. And it was just recent too. Um, I forget their name, but they're not local. And then IFF gave us a loan. That's Illinois Food Fund. They gave us a loan.
Right. Thank you. Again, anybody else have questions, please put them in the chat. And we also dropped in the feedback survey in the chat. So please, folks who participated, please give us feedback on the session and what you were able to learn from this. And then also we dropped in the rest of the sessions for today as well. Is there anything else, Ms. Jones, that you would want to highlight from your experience or emphasize before we wrap up?
Really just take your time, proper planning beats poor performance, so plan properly, be realistic with your goals, but don't stop moving. There anything that we can possibly do to help our urban farmers, our foodpreneurs, and especially our large scale farmers, we're in it for them. All of this is to help, reduce food related illnesses in our community and help farmers make more money, because there's no room you can go into and everything in that room started with a farmer. Everything, no matter what room you go in, everything started with a farmer, and we have to honor their hard work, and we have to stop letting farmers be, the backbone of society, and not, supporting them in the best ways we can.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Jones. Very appreciative of all the knowledge you shared today and all the hard work that you've been pulling together in your community to pull together this project to, one, support producers in a fair and equitable way, but also create access to food in your community. Very excited for that and look forward to seeing the project on the ground and hopefully seeing some of the farmers who are on this call selling through you all in the future.